Hello folks, and welcome to the show where it's not about me and what I'm doing in my shop, but what you are making in your shop. So, with that, you know I'm going to ask you, what are you doing? Hello, I'm your host, Chad Stanton, and on today's show, we had a lot of submissions come in, but there was kind of oddly a reoccurring theme going with it. Several people wrote in and said that they're working out of tiny shops. And I thought this was a good thing to emphasize because it goes to show you that you don't need a large space, you don't need brand new fancy tools, and you can do some amazing work in a small place. So, without further ado, let's get into the submissions so we can all get inspired. Now, the first person today, I actually owe an apology. This is from Joseph Travis. Joseph last week sent me in his pictures of the project that he was working on, and I saved it, put it in the file, but I forgot to write his name down here on the official Woodcraft McFeely clipboard. Yeah, I just had to do that. So I told him I'd get him on first thing this week. So Joseph is making a dresser, and he's using poplar and red oak to make the dresser. And he said this was his first time ever doing dovetails of any kind. And so he did the half-blind dovetails, and he said he used a router and a jig. And I've used that in the past. In fact, for me, the setup that I had with my jig and router, it was so fussy, it took so long that I had a designated router just for that, thinking if I didn't touch it, I could just pick it up and go to town next time. And every time I screw around making adjustments. So if you got a good one there, Joseph, good for you. And I'll be curious to see more progress of that, how you're going to finish it all up with the handles and the stain and so on. So thank you, and once again, I apologize. Okay, John Marencic. John made this rustic cabinet. He said it was commissioned, and he's kind of like, I just made it out of number 2 pine. And I know number 2 pine may not be the most desirable. I mean, it shows the knots. I don't think it stains very well. Certainly it's not a hardwood, so it's going to dent and bruise easily. But on the upside, it's easily available, and it doesn't matter really what kind of wood you got. I mean, you can see this is a nice piece. It's well designed. It looks fantastic. And he called it a rustic cabinet. I really wouldn't call it too rustic at all, other than the pine. I mean, look at the bottom there. It's got a nice little graceful curve at the foot of it. So, I don't know. I love it, John, and I thank you for sending that in. Okay, now, I know this is early in the show, but I'm going to go on record to say right now I think this is the best project sent in to me this week. And this is coming all the way from Australia, Perth there, and this is from Andy Lee. And Andy made this here picture frame. Okay, I have a small confession. I might be a little biased on this. This is from my nephew there. And what I want to say, though, is I think it's great. Andy is actually doing this in school. And there's not a whole lot of schools around where I live here in the States that are encouraging kids to get into woodworking. So he's made this and other projects in the past at the school. And when I was asking him about it, they're combining several things with it. So he's used the router on it, he's used the bandsaw on it, and they're even having him do work with CNC machines. So I think it's great how they're taking new technology, existing technology that's been around for a long time. Hopefully they throw a few hand tools in there for him. But altogether, I think it's great how he is getting introduced to woodworking through the school system. So thank you, Andy. Great job. Steve Sobba. Steve had an easel stand from a friend, and this is just a small little stand for putting like a picture frame on it, and it broke. So he said, sure, I can fix that. Well, then when he fixed it, he was looking at it and said, you know, I could make one just like that and put a little hole and slot in the bottom, and it'd be great for holding an iPad. And so that's what he did. And of course, as soon as he finished it, his wife took it, and then some friends asked for some. So now Steve is on the path of making a bunch of them. But it just goes to show you where a little bit of inspiration can come from. And, you know, now he's making projects for others and sharing his skill and ability. And it just kind of hit him like a light bulb. So that's pretty awesome. Brad Soulchin. Brad is a busy guy this week. So Brad is gearing up for a craft show that he's going to have some items in, as well as some gifts for the holidays coming up. So he's made a bunch of plaques, he's made some duck calls, and he's finishing up, I think it was 30 pens for his niece's catering business, that she's going to pass out these pens as a thank you gift to her clients. So Brad is one busy fellow. So thanks for sending that in, Brad, and tell us how you do at the craft show. I'll be curious. Tom Bertino. All right, Tom is doing right now what I absolutely love. I love to see projects in progress. So Tom has his 6-month-old grandson, and he's already excited to give the young lad a rocking horse. But not your average rocking horse. He's making a motorcycle rocking horse. So here's where he's at. He's got the plans, and he's cut out some pieces, and he's going to try and get this done and finished by Christmas time for it. But anyhow, I love seeing the beginning, and we'll be able to follow Tom's progress all the way through the end. So good luck, Tom. The clock is ticking. Gene Horton. I believe Gene is new to the show, and Gene sent me in this picture of a king-size bed that he made for his daughter. And when I first saw it, I was blown away. It's got kind of like that rustic mosaic look. I mean, look at the stuff on that footboard there. So cool. And then he tells me that he made it out of pallet wood. So I thought he purposely planned it and you know, made it look like that. No, once again, another fellow who's taken something that would have been thrown out and repurposing it. So pretty cool. Oh, and just I'm throwing this out there. Anyone who lives over in Cleveland near the Medina area, I got a buddy over there who has a business, and he throws out pallets. He actually takes the pallets home and burns them because he's got to get rid of them. So if there's any woodworkers over in that area that want free pallets, go ahead and write me, and I'll hook you up with them, because I'm sure he'd be glad to give those away for free for someone to make stuff versus just burning them. All right, Dwight Lundeen. This honestly was probably one of my favorite stories for this week. So Dwight said he got a commission to make some bunk beds. And right off the bat, I'm loving the story, because anytime you woodworkers can make a few bucks for doing something you love, that's, for me, the best. Then he was told that the bunk beds were for dolls. And so right away I'm thinking, well, that's kind of creepy, grown adults wanting bunk beds for toys, but hey, customers always right, aren't they? Well, as it goes on, so you can see here the bunk beds and that, and I love the moon and stars that are cut out of the headboard there. And I love how it looks like a castle even, and you know, you can stack them on top. Well, it turns out that the client is his daughter, Claudia, and it was for her dolls. So I imagine this is Claudia in the picture. I thought that was really cute, and I imagine Claudia paid in full to Dad with hugs and kisses. So I really thought that was a sweet little story. You kind of had me fooled there for a second at the beginning, Dwight. So thank you so much for the pictures. And I love the design of the bunk beds. I really think that's cool. My friend Paul Bylin. Now, if you're a regular viewer of the show, you know that Paul is an excellent turner. He makes some amazing looking bowls and such. Well, this time he decided to, just for something kind of fun and whimsical, made this little lighthouse. And so here's a video of it. And he was able to pick up the light. I think he got the light for a few bucks off of Amazon. And I forget where he said he got the plastic cover that looks like the glass on it. Anyhow, it was such a hit that he's got people placing orders for the thing. So here's another fella making a few bucks off of doing what he loves. So that's pretty cool. Also, too, Paul had a second project he sent in. He's carving a leaf, and this is one of his first carvings that he's done. And he's doing it on pine. And let me tell you, carving on pine is not easy. I find it's difficult to do. So anyone who's new to carving, pine seems like it would be ideal because it's soft, but your tools have to be razor sharp. I find that the pine wants to split and kind of tear and get away from you. For me, I just don't get as clean cuts working on pine. And I suggested basswood, walnut, and mahogany. Mahogany is great if you can afford it. But it doesn't matter because Paul is at least practicing and doing it. So if he can do it on pine, he'll be able to do it on anything. Okay, so next on the list is Theodore Becker. And Theodore is making these amazing chessboards. Now, I was talking with him some online, and he was having trouble gluing up all those segmented pieces that make up the chessboard, and he was asking me for some tips on it. I tried to do my best to help him. I don't know if it helped or not, but just look at the work on this. This is really cool. I love all the looks to that, and he's going to work on another one that's going to have drawers underneath it to be able to put the chess pieces in. So I'll be really anxious to see that one. And he's going to try and do a mitered full blind dovetail on all the corners of that. So we'll see how he comes out with it. John Hutchinson. Now, I am quickly eager to get John's submissions each week now. I've almost become hooked on his projects. So a couple weeks ago, John did the disco waving hands. Last week, he did the giraffe eating light. And this week, he has the Dynamo Men Duo, or Dynamo Men Duet. And what it is it's kind of neat. He's got a little generator down there at the bottom. And as the guys crank, they're actually powering the light bulb. It's just pretty cool. I love seeing that stuff. And yet, a part of me kind of wants to drop a wrench in those gears just to see it jam up for a second. Thanks, John. I really love your work. It's whimsical, it's funny, it's entertaining, and overall, it's just quite creative. All right, so Dennis, let's see if I get your name right, Rochon. Dennis is one of the fellows this week working out of a small shop. And so in this first picture, I'm not sure what he's working on, but he's gluing up a large panel. And he says he literally has to suck in his gut and walk through sideways to get around that and machines and so on. And I'll admit, it can get frustrating when you work in a small shop. My other shop was quite small, and I always have at least 3 jobs going at once, and that gets difficult. But it doesn't matter, because I don't think Dennis is doing this full time. I'm curious to see what that panel is going to be, by the way, Dennis. But Dennis has also made this wine rack. It's made out of red oak. It holds 18 bottles and up to 12 glasses. So, see, proof is in the pudding. You can do some amazing stuff in a small space. So thanks for sending that in, Dennis. Mr.Moe. Now, Mr.Moe hasn't been feeling too well lately, so we didn't see him last week. But he's back this week, and he's made some boxes. He's made the box for his wife and for his wife's aunt. And he did something kind of clever on this, I thought. A lot of boxes, have some kind of lip to them so that the pieces interlock together, or it's held on with a hinge. In this case, he did something very, very simple. He used magnets, and the magnets hold the lid on. So, kind of a simple solution for sometimes what can be tricky. So thanks for sharing that with us, Mr. Moe, and hope you feel better. All right, my friend Peter Compton, he's down there in Australia, and Peter has a brother that's moving out of the country, and he thought, well, I'm gonna make something for my brother to remind him of Australia. So once again, last week Peter made some projects out of pallet wood, some Adirondack chairs and table. Goes by the same place, more pallet wood out, takes it. He thinks this time it's Japanese oak, and he made this really cool clock, which obviously is the shape of Australia and has the different animals indigenous there to the country. And I think he routed out the shapes, and then he said he filled it in with some black epoxy. And once again, once he completed the project, the wife and friends want one as well. So he too, like the previous viewer, is now having to make more. And hey, Peter, while you're at it, if you want to make one more and send it my way, that'd be great. I don't have a clock in the shop yet. So. All right, our next viewer is another fella who's working out of a small shop. This is Karl Blankenship. Karl lives in Texas. I think he said he was originally here from Ohio, but I don't know where. Moved to Texas, and he said because it's so hot down there that he couldn't work in his garage anymore. He got one of the bedrooms, which is 11 by 11. And he said because it is in the house, he only does work with hand tools because it keeps the dust down to a minimum. And so he made this keepsake box for his cousin's wedding. It's a dovetailed box made out of poplar, and he used shellac for the finish on it. And not only do I like small projects. You've heard me say this before, that a small project can actually be more difficult than a big one. Because it's small, everyone's going to look at it all the way around and everything. We don't do that with a table. We don't pick a table up and look at it from every direction. So small work gets scrutinized a lot more, but it looks like that Karl knows what he's doing there. And he said he's got air conditioning in the house, he's got his TV there in the house. So here's a picture of Karl there in the pool, cooling off in the hot Texas sun, while the rest of us here in Ohio are dealing with rain and snow. So he's cooling off, I'm trying to stay warm. Thanks, Karl. All right, moving on. Donald Dean. Don said he decided to do something nice for his son. He said his son works a lot, is a hard worker, is a good husband, and when he does have some free time, he really enjoys playing games. So he made a gaming table for his son. And I'm so stupid. I first was thinking like board games, Then the next photo, when I saw the computer on it, I'm like, oh, video games. So clearly you all now know I don't play the video games. But I thought it was nice, him doing that. And Don said this is the first project he's ever worked with MDF and his last. And I couldn't agree more. If anyone's watched me for a long time, I always say I hate MDF. It's incredibly heavy. It makes very fine sawdust, so not only does it get all over, but you're breathing that. The way they make MDF, it can have some dangerous chemicals in it that you're now breathing. And it's terrible for strength in any manner. It doesn't fasten well with screws. You can't really do good joints with it. It's just not a good product at all. The only upside to it is it does take paint amazingly well. So, but for the record, I never use MDF for any of the projects for my customers. I just refuse to do it, even though it can keep costs down. So, anyhow, great job there, Don. George Wilmore. George, like many of us, has lots of scrap wood laying around. And so George was able to make some cutting boards and a cheese cutter out of it. And he used maple, cherry, white oak, buckeye, and walnut. So it's, as you can see, it's a pretty stunning cutting board and cheese cutter. Very, very nice there. And George also wanted to say, I think it was Paul Bylin a couple weeks ago that was making some the oval shaker boxes. And George wanted to say encouragement to Paul and anyone else out there that's been wanting to or has tried to make the shaker boxes. He said, stick with it. It gets a whole lot easier, and it almost becomes addicting to make them. He said he's made over 80 of them, and he even teaches some classes at his local little woodworking clubs. So there you are. Don't be afraid. Get out of your comfort zone, folks. Try something new, and don't get discouraged if it doesn't happen the first time, all right? So thank you, George, for that. All right, now we're coming up on the guy who is working out of, I think, the smallest shop yet. He is Alan Chevalier. How is that? He dared me on if I'd get his name right. Alan. Alan is, once again, sending us photos of his work in progress. He's going to make a TV stand. And his space that he's working out of is 12 foot by 3 foot. Yeah. And why is it so small? Well, because he lives there in Korea, where space is at a high price to get, and it's actually the back portion of his apartment. I wouldn't even call it a balcony. It's just a little back room that they have that usually they hang their clothes out there to dry, have a washing machine and such out there. And that is what his workspace is. And even though he said it's small, he's got a ton of natural light. He, too, only uses hand tools for that reason. He doesn't have the space for anything bigger. But this actually gets me really pumped up because I am eagerly waiting to see the progress of his TV console he's going to make in that small area with just those limited tools. Again, proving to us that we can do some amazing work with minimal resources. So thank you so much, Alan, for sending in your photos. David Bishop, over there at One Eye Woody. David, he's got his work cut out for him, and he's got a hustle on this. He is making some holiday decor, if you will, some Santas and snowmen, once again, out of pallet wood. And you can see the progress he's doing here. He's got to make 20 of them, folks. 20. And you can see all those little pieces that he's cutting out. My goodness, I see that, and right away I would get a headache at the thought of it. I don't like doing mass production things, but David's a good guy. I'm sure he's doing it to be kind and give them away, And I know he'll meet the deadline because that's just how he is. So thanks, David, for sending that in. Okay, and wrapping this up is Charlie Hinton. Charlie last week was working on an organizer. He said he got the idea from online, and the original build was very simple. It's just nailed together. He looked at this as an opportunity to improve his skill, and so he put some dados and rabbits to it. And here it is, all done, stained, finished, and you can see it holds phone and different accessories that he would commonly have nearby him, and it looks great. And it just goes to show that project is kind of like what this show is all about, is to give folks ideas and encourage them and to take something you see and put your own spin on it, make it your own. So great job on that, Charlie. So if you would like to send in your submissions to me to have your pictures on the show, go ahead and write me at woodchoppintime@gmail.com, where I will get your photos here, and I will answer any kind of email questions that you might. I want to encourage you to check out Wednesday's show this week. I'm pretty excited about this. We got some good email questions that came into me, and so I'm eager to share that with you to make you all better woodworkers. The Wednesday show is quickly becoming my favorite out of the three. I love the email questions. And now we're going to have another guest spot on it. And this one is from Gerald Vance over there at the Appalachian Heritage Woodshop. Gerald has a TV show starting, I believe it's starting this week on PBS out there. And fear not, he's going to try and get it on other PBS stations. But in the meantime, he's going to be putting the episodes on his website. So I'll definitely be sharing those and putting the links on my Facebook and all that other stuff for y'all to catch up on. And he's going to do a little segment on this week on old tools. So tune in, see which old tool he's going to spotlight. And as always, I want to thank our sponsors for helping make this show possible. Now, if I could ask a personal favor from you, if you all are still watching at this point, I imagine you're pretty loyal viewers to the show because this is kind of a longer show, 20-some-odd minutes. And so at the end of the year here, I have to approach my sponsors and ask them to re-sign up. So what I would like to ask from you, if you wouldn't mind, is please visit their website. Even if you're not ready to buy anything at this time, please just visit it, look around on it. If there's something you see, go ahead and save it. You know, you can get it later. But go ahead and check that out. Also, too, if you could share these videos, any video that you found really informative or helpful, share this video on your social media platform, whether you're doing Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever it might be, to get the word out for more people to learn about what we're doing here and also to introduce them to these sponsors that we have for the show. I'm trying to rely on the money from the sponsors to keep the show going. I don't want to do the patron accounts on YouTube where they kind of ask the viewers to chip in and donate. I don't want to do that. So I want to take the money, spend it wisely for making this show better, free, available to you all. So, okay, with that out of the way, I do want to, as always, thank you so much for watching. And you know what I'm going to tell you to do now, right? Go dance.
Come on, y'all!